Well, thank you for joining.
No worries.
So the first question I usually ask, actually, because I'm a British person, is what's the weather like where you are?
Let's have a look.
It's dreadful.
Overcast.
Yeah, same here. It had like I had like 20 minutes of sunshine earlier. I went for a walk and then I had to run in because it started raining. But hey ho,
Yeah,
what can you do? So
standard.
yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so first real question. Would you like to give an introduction of who you are, what you're about,
I
all that kind of
suppose,
stuff?
yeah. My name's Lumilaura. I'm a Spyro the Dragon speedrunner, current world record holder for Spyro the Dragon to any percent, and I've been doing this for about 3 years.
Cool. So yeah, obviously predominantly known for the Spyro speedrunning. So what got you interested in Spyro in the first place?
So I don't know the full story. I'm trying to not go back to the absolute roots, but my dad had a PlayStation.
Okay.
Don't know where he got it because he hates games. Don't know why he bought it. But he had an essential PlayStation magazine demo disc, which had all sorts of demos on it. It had Crash, Tekken, Tomb Raider, Spyro, Parappa. But obviously the Spyro one, according to my mum, was the one that I just would not stop playing over and over and over and over again. It was always Spyro. So one day she just are we good? Oh yeah, no,
Yeah, we're
sorry,
good. Yeah,
Zoom.
sorry.
Zoom help. Yeah, no. So my mom made the executive decision to go out and buy the full game. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. I was about 3 years old at the time.
Oh, okay. So
And
you played it younger than I did because I got it in 1999 for £40 and it cost all the money I had at the time because I was 8.
oh
So I know, yeah, it was all the money I had, literally every single penny to play
my
Spyro the
goodness.
Dragon. So, but so okay, so you've long time player then. So is that the game that got you into speedrunning, or was speedrunning something that was a bit later? Well, obviously it was a bit later, but was it something that drove the game drive the speedrunning, or did the speedrunning drive the game? I
To a
guess.
degree.
Right.
My history with speedrunning is that I've been best friends with a very, very talented Doom speedrunner. We met in primary school.
Right.
And I learned of speedrunning through him and always kind of thought that we played everything together. We did Team Fortress 2 together, we did Overwatch together, we did rhythm games together.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to do speedrunning with him, but I didn't really feel Doom. Doom was not my speed game.
Right.
But then I did do Doom for a little bit. Technically, that is my first speed game. But when I decided to pull the trigger on speedrunning Spyro, because I'd already been in the community for a few years at that point,
Yeah.
and I felt like I needed to get a little bit more mileage out of these games. Yeah, I just did not look back. That was when I truly started to understand speedrunning and what it was all about.
Okay, so Spyro, because obviously, I mean, my history of speedrunning is very limited. So I did a little bit of Devil May Cry speedrunning a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't call myself a speedrunner. I'm very interested in watching speedrunning, and I do like the idea of it, but I just get so too obsessive and I will just suck all my time. So I kind of like, in a sense, stay away from doing it. But what's interesting about Spyro is it's a game that I knew casually as a kid. So do you think that
Mm-hmm.
helps being able to pick up speedrunning with a game? Or,
Absolutely, it
right.
does. Yeah, I've always been of the idea that the best way to pick up a speed game is for it to be a game that you already know and love
Yeah.
casually. You need to have that love for it that you can just replay it no matter what, because if you start to find that it's a chore to go back to that game, to constantly reset it, you're not going to get very far in it.
No, okay. So is your predominantly Spyro 1? Is that your favorite one, or is it
That is
yeah,
absolutely my
no,
favorite
see,
one.
that's really interesting to hear because I think that as well. The three originals, I just something about the collecting dragons that I like. That's the bit that's missing in
Mm.
2 and 3, and I think everyone says Spyro 2 is the best game ever, and I'm like, I like it, but it doesn't fit. I think this is going to sound really petty, but the bit that annoys me about it is the noise that the gems make when you pick them up doesn't sound as
It,
good.
I get it. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I completely get it. It kind of overstays its welcome, doesn't it?
a little bit. It says jing, jing, jing every
Mm.
3 or 4 seconds, especially if you're speedrunning it. It's just going to be a constant jing in your ear, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, with the content you do on YouTube, because obviously you stream on
Hmm.
Twitch, but a lot of your content on YouTube is like you name drop lots of runners in the community
Hmm.
and players that are known for doing certain things in the game and things like that. So how important do you think that is for your content? Is that the angle you're going for to try and be inclusive and bring everyone in, or is that just who you are?
It's more of I want to tell these really interesting stories of things that are happening in the Spyro speedrunning scene that the casual Spyro fan might not know about, but if they did know about it, it would really hook them.
Yeah.
But it's also just really good practice to make sure that everyone involved in these interesting things is properly credited, you know?
Yeah, no, fair enough. Oh.
My air conditioning.
Oh, that's fair enough. I've got a fan on that's going on in the background.
Fine.
But
It's just
so yeah, so you also on that as well. You had I think it was it ESA Summer 2022. You had a someone commentating your video that didn't necessarily know the game. So was that like a to bring him in to know the game, or was it just to include him in the?
that was Zem92, and that is because him and I we found after him and I, you know, I was lurking in his stream for a bit. He popped into mine. We did a couple of collabs on Twitch. That was when I found that his and I's senses of humor really, really bounced off each other. And so
Yeah.
I figured it was a good idea.
Well, the thing is as well, I've noticed with watching a few speedruns is that sometimes I'm interested in the game, but sometimes the commentary isn't really that entertaining. Whereas, I mean, I'm obviously very interested in Spyro as a game, but also it keeps you kind of interested because sometimes if you're watching someone really, really concentrating and you have someone there chatting away and bouncing off with humor, it really it makes it more entertaining, I think, anyway.
Yeah,
so definitely.
absolutely.
So on the more technical front, because I'm probably not going to know all the individual speed skips and things like that. But how technical would you say Spyro was as a speed run? I mean, the first one.
I would say it is actually a lot more technical than it lets on. There is a lot that's going on during just the basic fundamental movement of a Spyro speedrun that is very easy to miss if you don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So jump charges, which is a very quick roll from X to square, or charge glides, which is a very quick roll from square to X, or flame charges, which, you know, you have to be flaming super close as a gem pops out, and it varies from enemy to enemy. You got to learn all of that stuff. So there's a lot of high APM stuff that affects Spyro's very analog physics, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't really move in set increments. It's all he floats around a lot. And so there is a lot of precision on top of the high APM movement tech that is necessary for getting a good time.
Yeah, I had a go attempted a go at a sort of Spyro speedrun. I said I haven't even filmed it. It's that bad. But the I always forget the names of the levels. Is it? It's not Stonehill, is it? Is it the town? The
Town
first
Square.
and the others as well. Town Square. There's the skip where you kind of have to jump off the side to jump back up. And I think I attempted it about 30 times. I just couldn't do it because I mean, it looks really easy because it's like, oh, you're just jumping over on a ledge, but it is an absolute nightmare. So what's interesting to me though is looking at a few of your runs and a few other people's runs, knowing that Spyro is, and I know it's probably not really an open world game, but it kind of is an open world. Does that make it a more customizable thing where you can kind of recover quicker if you sort of make a mistake? Okay. That's really interesting.
Absolutely. So something that I will always tell new runners of this game is that sure, there is an optimal route. Like, you could go by the books and do an optimal route, but if you miss a gem or you miss a dragon or something, just keep moving. There's so much more wiggle room. There's so much more game on the outskirts of the normal route in context of an 90% run that you can just detour off to get something you missed, or, you know, you can do, like, progression in this game is so non-linear that you could really do whatever you want. You could do the absolute antithesis to the route that we normally do and still complete the game. You could avoid every single gem that we normally get and get completely different ones, and you'll still beat the game. It'll be slower, but
yeah. So if you, I don't think the game's solved, but if you got to the more or less perfect run in that sense.
If you asked me that a few months ago, I would have said yes, but I'm preparing to go back to Spyro on 90% in October, possibly early November.
Right.
And I'm going to be implementing a fair few new things, as well as running a tighter gem route to make sure that, you know, I'm not missing as many and I can save time there as well. I would say there is at most about 30 more seconds left to be saved by a human being.
That's a long time in speedrunning, though. That's like, I don't know exactly what the leaderboard looks like on Spyro, but I know that it's reasonably close. I don't know if it's within seconds, but yeah, that's I suppose that's something you want to, because you want to keep your title, don't you? You want to be the first to stick it at the top. That's fair enough.
Admittedly, yeah.
Yeah, no, well, that's fine. I mean, I think I mean, like I say, I did a little bit of Devil May Cry speedrun. I say back in the day, it was only 4 years ago, so it wasn't it? But it was before pandemic, so it was a different time. But like I went on speedrun.com a few days ago, and I don't know whether it's specific to Spyro or whether it's just the whole website has sort of changed a little bit. But you can submit a run on Spyro, and there's like 256 places, so you can do it in a couple of hours. And I look at that, and that's not too daunting. That's actually like I look at because Spyro is one of the games that I go for the sort of PS1 classics, the sort of croc to an extent. I mean, it's a hard game. Spyro, Crash 2 is my favorite Crash, Tekken 3, and I'll just like casually play them like once a year and take a couple of days to do them. But like I'm looking at it thinking 2 hours doesn't seem that long. I reckon I could probably do that in 2 hours. So probably, well, for me and for anyone watching that wants to get into the speedrun of Spyro, what would the first steps be, do you reckon, to have a go at attempting?
This is a really hard question to answer because like the number one requisite has nothing to do with the game itself. You just need to know that you're going to have fun doing it.
Yeah, okay.
Because if you're enjoying the fundamentals of just running around, charging, picking up gems, the rest of the run comes so naturally. Because Spyro 1 is a very consistent game. You start it, you're running around picking up gems. You're in Nasty's world, you're still running around and picking up gems, So as long as you enjoy that, you'll get through it pretty well. As for saving time, if you have a PS2, use it.
Is that because the laser, is it? Does the laser load a game quicker? Or...
There is, yeah. So as far as I'm aware, this might be completely wrong. There are 2 lasers inside a PS2, one for CDs and one for DVDs.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can use the DVD laser for PlayStation 1 CDs, which reads it a little bit quicker.
I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting because I know that I don't know if it's the exact laser, but I know that if you have the PSX, the bulky, I've not got it here, but the grey one, it's a different laser for CDs than the little weenie PS1. And I think the laser for CDs in the PS1 is the same one that's in the PS2, and they load a lot. It loads a lot quicker, even the standard CD one anyway.
Really?
Yeah. So like I like mod chipped games, for example. I've got a mod chipped PSX and a mod chip PS1, and the PSX one it doesn't load the games at all, like a multi-regional game from like I got a game called Silhouette Mirage, which it loads it, but it really flickers and doesn't like it at all, whereas in the PS1, the little one, it loads it no problem. So okay, that's interesting. Learn something new every day. But
today I learn.
So a question then, can you play Spyro casually now, or has the speedrunning stopped you from being able to do it?
So with Spyro, there's always so much freedom to where you go and what you do that as long as I'm not deliberately trying to beat the game as fast as possible, I consider that casual play.
Okay.
Even if I am, running around doing all this crazy tech, proxying off things and going out of bounds and stuff. If I'm just doing that with no set goal, I consider that casual gameplay. I just happen to be very good at it. So. So that answer,
yeah, no, because I mean, I Devil May Cry is my sort of keep going back to, but I physically can't play that. I can play Devil May Cry games. I don't know if you play them at all, but I can play them. They're the hack and slash, de-stress games for me. But that one, because we've sort of rooted it, me and my friend. I just feel guilty if I start like not following the path, because I'm like, oh my god, I'm against the clock, and it's interesting. One thing with that game as well, and one of the things as a sort of speedrunner watcher that I remember being brilliant. I think it was ADGQ, I can't remember, but there was a speedrun about 10 years ago of Super Metroid.
Oh yeah,
there was a race of 4 people playing the game live. So is that something that there's been attempted with Spyro yet?
Not to a degree. I mean, last I've heard of a big Spyro race was actually very, very, very early in GDQ, where I think they had like an 8-person 120% race, but that wasn't on stream.
Right.
So I was actually thinking about this. I think when ESA Summer 2024 rolls around, I'm going to see how many people we can get to attend and maybe do a 10-person 12-person, 6 to a side, 120% relay.
Wow, how would that work with multiple? Because obviously I know it would work with 2 people racing the game But how would it work with the relay? Would you just change every certain amount of gems
One
or change?
person, one person per homeworld.
Oh, okay, right. That
Yeah.
wow. So
So
that
as soon
that
as the homeworld switches over, next
well,
runner.
well, that would be really interesting because obviously what we've talked about before with the open world nature of the game is that all of those runners presumably would have a slightly different way of playing. And I
Yeah.
guess you'd probably watch the game even without the relay. You'd probably watch the game live, and because on the Super Metro run I'm talking about, like literally there's like frame by frame two of the runners for
Mm.
like most of the game. They're like, you know, but if you run it slightly differently, like it can look like someone's really behind when they might not be, and it's almost like the people playing
Yeah.
are the only people that would know. That would be I'd love that. That'd be great to watch. Probably wouldn't be good enough to play, but so are you? What's the full list of games you do speedrun then? Is it just the three Spyro or the four Spyro games? I think I've seen you play. Or
Pretty much,
yeah.
yeah. It's I've barely dabbled in Sonic R
Oh
as
right.
kind of a shit post, but that's it.
Well, I know that's quite a popular. Only was because of the meme everyone's singing. You must have seen the
Mm.
everyone's singing meme, but I think it's
Yeah.
quite a popular speedrunning game, Sonic R, isn't it? I know it's not a very
It
good game, but
it also happens to be a childhood game of mine
oh, okay.
also.
Well,
So
see that game was the only, well, not quite the only, but it was one of the only Sonic games I didn't own at one point. At one point,
really.
I had, yeah, because I've not got any of my Sonic plushes around, but I had,
Hmm.
apart from the arcade games and Sonic R, I had all the Sonic games back in 2003. Because so
Wow.
like the GameCube had Sonic Adventure DX and
Hmm.
Sonic Adventure 2, and on those games you could, and I think Sonic Gems or in the Mega
Gems
Collection,
collection.
Gems Collection. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And with all those games on the GameCube, if you unlocked them, you had every Sonic game apart from the Sonic R and there was a game in the arcade which I don't know if you know about, but it's like
Sonic the
a
Fighters.
no, Sonic the Fighters was on Sonic Gems, but this one was like an isometric similar to Sonic 3D work. Is it the Blast one? Similar to that.
Was it Sega Sonic?
I think it might be because it had the had like a rollerball that you played with,
Yes. Yeah,
and
that's
I've
Sega
never
Sonic.
seen it in person, but I would love to play that game because that
Mm,
looks like a right laugh. So I don't know if you've played it, but
I've not played it, no.
no, but it looks like a laugh. But no, the
Mm.
Sonic is see the thing is with Sonic though is that you think speed and you think oh it'd be great to speed run Sonic, but like I look at those games. I mean Sonic Adventure 2, and it's hard casually anyway, so I don't think I could even attempt to.
Yeah.
Is that something you've thought about doing, moving into like Sonic Adventure and things like that, or would that drive you
Well, it
mad?
is funny you mentioned that when you asked earlier about my speedrunning history. I did kind of neglect to mention
Mm.
that I did Sonic 2 ILs on mobile, actually,
Okay.
for the longest time. I was just really bored. And I had Sonic 2 on iOS and they have an inbuilt time trial.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I just batted out Emerald Hill 1 over and over and over again. And I got to, I think, the third fastest non-cheated time on all of iOS. So
That's all right, isn't it? Well, we could
yeah.
probably build to something with that. But Sonic is, I suppose. The thing is though, with I'd be interested to see what your opinion on this is. Like, those sort of older games that have been ported several times, because like you talk about Spyro 1 and then playing on the PS2, and obviously,
Mhm.
presumably the downloadable off the PS Store games have a different. Is they have a different categories? They load slightly differently? Is that right, or am I wrong there?
So as far as I'm aware, they're emulated
Okay,
and emulated very poorly at that.
all
So the
right,
load times are terrible, the input lag is
right.
terrible.
So they are different,
Not
just not good. Yeah, because I know that
yeah, not a good way.
with Devil May Cry and some other games like obviously like standard games that came out on the PS2 have been ported to PS3, to PS4, to PS5, and Xbox and everything like that. And obviously, as time's gone on, the ports have gotten quicker. They may not have gotten better, but like for various reasons, like Silent Hill and things like that, people don't like as much. But the games load a lot faster.
Yeah.
So, but like with those older games like Sonic, presumably like they can't get any faster than they are. So I guess they're probably already solved by people. I don't know.
You do mention that, but they recently found a pretty major skip in Metropolis Zone Act 3 for Sonic 2. They
Really?
found they found a massive zip right at the start of the level.
Right. Okay.
Which
Is that like a
skips.
glitch thing or something, or because that
Yeah,
could right?
something along the lines of getting stuck in the ground and then pressing the
Oh,
opposite
right.
direction. It like pings you to the other side of the level instantly.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I watched might have been a recent video you did of Spyro as well, where you talk about the the TAS stuff with the I don't know what the name is, but it's the supercharge where you can turn really quickly, or
Sharp turning.
Sharp turning, right? Okay, so with that, I think you mentioned in the video that it's something that's a nigh on impossible to do in casual play, but
Pretty
for
much.
want of a better term. And you also mentioned in the video about modifying controllers for that. So, and obviously that's a food for thought type thing with speedrunning. Is that something that's come up with other games? Do you know, or is because obviously modding a game console to make your inputs faster is a no-no. But in terms of like modding it to make things easier, is Spyro, is this new, or is it something that people have talked about before?
My main source of inspiration for that conversation was the Super Smash Bros. Melee scene, because they have been doing it for years. Because there's a lot of precise analog tech in that game that needs very specific angles and very specific, inputs.
Yeah.
That they've been modifying their controllers and doing all sorts. So
I used to think I was good at that game when I first played
Same.
it. Back in like 2003 when I was playing that game, I was like, yeah, I'm really good at this. I'm really good at it. And I beat all my friends, and then got online and thought, no, I'm really not. Like, I don't understand it. But it just like, it seems to be like people just keep getting better at it. It's like, oh yeah. Me and my friend tried to play that at a convention a few years ago, and everyone there hammered us. We thought we had played it quite for a few months. That would be we go around his house every couple of days, and we play that game for a couple of hours, and thought, yeah, we could like have a reasonable crack, but no.
Yeah, Melee is ridiculous.
It's still good fun though, I think. Yeah, definitely. All right, so question. Go back into Spyro then. So there's probably some more questions you might get asked a bit by people. So, what's your favorite dragon in Spyro? And you might have to explain which one it is, because I might not remember the name.
So in Stone Hill, the one at the top of the whirlwind, the one that goes like Spyro, my friend.
Yeah.
Gildas. He's my favorite.
Is that the one you walk into accidentally when you go up the top of the?
Yes.
Yeah. Because every time I play, it frightens me because I'm he's there, right? Okay. I like the well, I don't like. I kind of have this like because I never remember which one's which, apart from the very early ones. It's obvious like the first one is, and I'm probably I remember what they're going to say, and when they start speaking, I can probably say the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I always get kind of annoyed when you spend forever trying to rescue a dragon, and then he just goes, "Thank you for releasing me," and that's it. I mean, it's been appreciative, but it's like I wanted to hear what you had to say. It upsets me. I'm like, I think I don't know what it is now in terms of playing the game differently, but certainly the legendary hardest dragon to get, don't remember the name, is the one in is it Haunted Towers? I can't remember the name of it.
Haunted Towers.
Yeah, the one where you've got so like I've got actually it's here. I've got a cheat book here. So like, there we go. And in this book, I won't show you because of the lens. This is from like 1999. It actually explains everything else in this game is like in the book is like this code unlocks that. But there's also a section in Spyro that says how to get the final dragon in Haunted Towers. So like for years I thought, okay, and I remember like because I don't know if you ever had cheat books as a kid, but that was like a currency when I was a kid. So like that was one of my cheats. I was like, yeah, well actually this is the way you get the dragon. You got to like go around here and stuff like that, which is that's been lost to time. I think that sort of thing. You'd have you come in and you'd be like, right, if you give me like a bag of crisps, I'll trade you a code or something like that. So
yeah, unfortunately that is lost to time with the advent of walkthroughs and just 5 seconds pressing some buttons. Oh, my pizza's here. Sorry.
No, that's right. Crack on.
Oh, there we go.
That gives me a nice other question.
Sorry about that.
So you have a Domino's pizza there. What's your Domino's of choice?
Oh, just pepperoni with stuffed crust.
Right.
Keep
okay.
It simple, but a banger. Yeah,
I go for the. I'm probably the opposite, and because I have thin and crispy, which I really like. I like the thin and crispy from Domino's, and what is it? The meat. Is it meteor or meat fee? I can't remember. It's me remembering all the names.
Something along those lines.
So what's the third one down on the menu? That's all I need to remember. Okay, so I guess favorite dragon. You've said your favorite dragon. Favorite world in Spyro 1.
Magic Crafters. Always. Yeah. I used to be pretty indecisive on this, but I will always say Magic Crafters now. After I realized that if you talk to most people in the Spyro speedrunning community, they will say that Magic Crafters is usually their most problematic homeworlds. Either that or Dreamweavers. But for me, I tear through Magic Crafters for some reason. I just have no issues with it. So
Is it
I've
is
just
it the
kind of
soundtrack maybe that it's nice and bright and happy and
yeah.
chirpy?
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah,
the vibes and aesthetics of the level do help a little bit with
yeah.
the mental perception of what's going on.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, because there's one thing in Spyro 1. The trivia that I know that maybe other people do. So I did a little few voice acting clips on TikTok, and I
Mhm.
tried to do like classic cutscenes in games, and I had an attempt at doing the opening Spyro video. The
Oh yeah.
basically you're in the Dragon Kingdom, blah blah blah, with the stuff
Mm.
like that. But what's interesting about the music that plays in that cutscene, it's nowhere else in the rest of the game. It's not on the soundtrack.
Hmm.
So it sounds a little bit like one of the early levels. I can't remember which one, but it's not. It's a completely new piece. So what I would do normally for games is I'd find that soundtrack, put it in, and then try and make it match up and put my voice over the top. And I was like, yeah, look how clever
Hmm.
I am. But this, I was like looking around. I'm like, where is it? So that's my that's my little bit of Spyro trivia that people might not know. But that's a really lame bit of Spyro trivia because speedrunners just skip that. So
I can back with two pieces of trivia about
okay,
that.
right,
One, there is a really faithful recreation of that track by a YouTuber known as Mr. Modes, which
right.
I can link to you if you
That
like.
would be interesting. Yeah.
And two, it turns out that song actually runs a little bit longer than we hear in the cutscene because for some reason, if you launch the game in the Italian language on the PAL version, the song is at a higher tempo and you can hear more of it. No idea
That
why.
that's what? Okay, that's really cool. So
Uh,
is there any okay, so the music, because I'm a bit of a music freak. So do you know anything about like dynamic music in Spyro at all? Because I know that what's interesting about the Toasty theme, for example,
mhm,
if you go into Toast or confront Toasty as it's called, and you play the level, I say perfectly, you play it casually
mhm,
perfectly without being hit, it's ambient, 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 and as soon as you confront Toasty, the music picks up. It's almost like
mhm.
it's been written for the length of time it took probably the playtester to get to Toasty. And I thought for years that it was
Mhm.
just like a programming in the game. It's not. It's just if you sit and wait for like a minute or whatever it is, then obviously wish you wouldn't do it in a speed run. But if you sit and
Yeah.
wait for like a minute, like the theme plays. So do you know if there's any dynamic music where the game triggers a sound at all? Do you know that?
So in engine, no. So
No.
there's nothing like that in the original. They did do that for Reignited, and
Oh
that's
right.
actually a fine example because one of the developers of Reignited mentioned explicitly that in Toasty being a
Oh
deliberate
right. Okay.
choice for them to implement. Yeah.
Well, okay,
So
so wow, okay, so I feel quite clever there because
yeah,
I've
there
never
you
seen
go.
that. So there we go. Wow, obviously I've noticed
The
something.
reason that probably occurs in the first place is because the way Stuart Copeland would compose the tracks is by playing them first and then getting a feel for them and then composing as he played.
Ooh.
So
Oh
he
yeah, but he's that
probably
good a drummer. He probably sat there and used his feet and just played it.
probably. Yeah.
Okay. Ooh. Okay. That's really interesting. I'm gonna go and nerd out on that because I know that like obviously like the N64, which obviously was the same era, it was just a
Mhm.
ROM, so you could do like the dynamic music where like you go underwater and it plays differently.
Mm.
And I noticed something really silly and well, it's a silly game, but I like it. Rugrat Search for Reptar.
I love that game.
Right, I love that game. Right, so if you go between floors in the Pickle's home, the music changes like that,
Yes.
which is like, how does it do that on a CD? I don't understand it, and it's not like the fidelity
That's a good
drops.
point.
Literally is like so that there's a trigger point. So
Yeah.
so if you go to, I think it's the third stair down for the Mr. Friend level, the music changes,
Mhm.
and then if you come back up into the house, the music changes back. But it's not like it plays the track from the beginning. It doesn't like start halfway through, but it's instant. I mean, obviously, as you know, like
I never
in
thought about that.
yeah, if you like you know what's the word? You know it's like for PS1 games. Sometimes the music glitches, but like ignoring
Mhm.
that, all of them load like lightning. So that's me nerding out with music and games.
Interesting.
So
I wonder if it is sequenced music, like in engine.
possibly that would be interesting to find out. I'm sure someone will be able to
Hmm.
tell us. Anyway, so we're unfortunately running out of time. So last question is there anything you would like to plug?
I suppose I'll take this opportunity to plug my YouTube channel because
Okay.
I've been putting a lot of effort into it lately. And I think that, well, I don't know, I've just been receiving some nice words about my editing and, the information that I'm putting out is interesting. So I suppose check that out if you feel the need. But
Yeah,
that's it.
I agree. It's brilliant. I've been really enjoying it the last few months. So
Thank you.
anyway, thank you for your time, and
No
I'm
worries. Thank you.
sure we'll speak again soon.
Mhm.
Take care. Ta-ra.
You too.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye
night.
now. You too.
Bye.